Okay, all, this is a tutorial that follows what we covered in the Intro to Unity Class 2 on October 27th if you missed it, or you just need a refresher to catch up. So we're going to go through this entire tutorial. I've sent it to everyone. If you're following along, check your email. You are going to need access to this to get the different links we'll be using, and also there's some code that's very important. So we're going to start by creating a new project. And we're going to select this version of Unity just to keep a constant. Again, just remember that everyone in your group needs to be using the same version, and I wouldn't suggest going past 2020 as the newer versions can have some bugs. If you're one of the people who is having issues with the package manager or is still unable to open Unity, I suggest removing Unity from your computer and re-downloading it entirely. Sometimes pieces of packages or assets don't get downloaded and then Unity won't work correctly. And if you continue to have problems, reach out to me or set up an appointment with IT or something to get that sorted out. So, going to call this tutorial 2. And as you can see, I've made a folder for Unity. It does save as files on your computer, and you want to make sure those don't get deleted. So be very careful that you're saving it somewhere that you're okay with. I have a Unity folder. And then we're going to create project. And this takes a second, so bear with me. Also, I apologize for the stuffiness of my voice. I've had a cold, but I'll do my best to be clear. And for our next class, we are going to be building off of this scene, so it's very important that you have it completely finished. Again, if you follow the tutorial and you're still having issues, reach out to me and we'll get those sorted out before the next class. Alright, so we've got our Unity scene. Again, we're going to be following this tutorial, so the first thing we're going to do is create 4 folders to organize our assets. So we've already got scenes. We're going to right-click on this window down here and create a folder. And we're going to name it Materials. We are going to create another folder and name it Scripts. And create one more folder, and we're going to name that Prefabs. Cool. So now that we've got all of those different folders, we are going to go into scenes. Let's check that that's the next step. And we are going to create a scene, and we're going to name it Level 1. Make sure that you're naming everything exactly as I do, as that's going to come into play later. So make sure that the capitals and spaces match mine exactly. And then we're going to make one more. And name it Level 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Okay, so now I've got these 2 scenes, Level 1 and Level 2. We're going to click Level 1, and we are going to go to File, Build Settings, and press Add Open Scene. And then we can just X that out. We're going to go to Level 2, and we're going to do the same thing, File, Build Settings, Add Open Scene, and we'll have Level 2. This is important because it's basically integrating the scenes into your project. If you press play later and you try to move between 2 different scenes, you're not going to be able to, so this is very important. And scenes are just like scenes in a movie. They're different spaces that you can build in. And so in this tutorial, we are going to basically design a way to move between them. So we're going to go back to Level 1, go back to our tutorial. See, the first thing we're going to do is make some materials that we'll use later. So we're going to go down to Materials, and again, in this empty folder, right-click, create a material. And we're going to name this one Ground with a capital G. And I want this one to be purple. Nice, bright purple. Okay. And we're going to create another one. I'm going to name it Ground 2. And I want this one to be blue. nice bright blue. Create another one. We're going to call it door. We're going to make this one brown. Again, colors are just personal preferences. As you might imagine, I'm making this door colored, and doors to me are brown. And we're going to create the last one, and we're going to name it key, and we're going to make this one gold. A little more orange, and then I'm also going to increase the metallicness and the smoothness so it's all pretty and shiny. You can play around with these later, but for now we're mostly just focusing on the color, making it a little smoother like a key would be. Now I'm going to go ahead and save. You want to save your project pretty constantly, as that's really going to help in case Unity crashes or something, which unfortunately does happen. Okay. So now we are going to create a terrain. In class, we just created a simple plane. They can achieve very similar functions. We did the plane just to save time. A plane is just like a large flat surface that you can then have a player walk around on. But a terrain is cool because you can then add texture and mountains and some other things, which can really add to your scene, and it's pretty easy to create one. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And to do that, we're going to go to our hierarchy window where all our game assets live, and we can either click the plus or right click and create a 3D object and then go down to terrain. And we're going to name this ground. Okay, so if you look at our game view, we can see where our terrain is. I don't really like that, so I'm going to click this and go to the top view, zoom out a little bit, and then I'm going to use this move function to move our terrain a little bit. So I'm just doing that by dragging these arrows. I'm going to try to center it. You can also use this transform bar over here, so I could do like -500, -500, and that's going to get it perfectly spaced so that when I look in my game view, I see this lovely terrain around me. So I'm going to go back to scene view, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I'm going to go back to the tutorial and check. Alright, we've got our terrain, and we're going to make some mountains and things such as that. So to do that, we are going to click this tool right here, or I'm sorry, the paintbrush tool right here, and it says raise or lower terrain. So then these different textures are what is going to raise and lower the terrains. Again, we didn't cover this in class. You're welcome to add a plane and just have a flat square. This is kind of like optional if you just want to do it. But see, I'm creating some mountains around the edge. And I'm just doing that by like dragging my mouse around. And then if I look in my game view, I can see them. I'm going to add a little more variation to these. Again, this is just for fun, but this can add a lot of like creativity to your builds and your games, so I highly suggest messing around with it a little bit. I like those. I also want some texture just on the floor of my game, so I'm going to very quickly just kind of run this all around to make it nice and bumpy. And I actually don't think I like the look of that, so I'm going to undo it. I'm going to mess around with these textures a little bit till I find one that I like. I like this one a little more. So again, just kind of randomly adding some texture in. Beautiful. Okay. So now we've got our little terrain that we're going to build our game within, but it's white right now, and I don't really like that. I would like it to be a different color. So to do that, I am going to change the color. Let me remind myself how to do that, because I always forget. Okay, terrain component. Yes, so we select this over here, and then we go to material. So this is just some different terrain settings, and I'm going to drag the ground 1 material onto the default terrain material. And now it's nice and purpley pink. You can pick whatever color you'd like. I just like this one. And now I'm going to save again. Okay. And then after we have our terrain, we're now going to change our main camera to a first-person controller. So if you're playing a game or experience where it seems like you're looking through the character's eyes, that's first person. That's a very easy way to create immersive experiences, so we are going to show you how to do that. And again, I know I call these games. They don't have to be games, they can be experiences, whatever you'd like to call them. I, by habit, just often call them games. Okay, so I've got my mini first-person controller. I'm going to press open in Unity. I do suggest saving these. And again, for this to work, you have to be logged into Unity on the browser, and here you can actually sign in through the Unity Hub, which is where you created your project. And make sure you're on the same account or you'll have issues. Then I'm going to press open Unity. Alright, I've got my package manager. It's fetching the packages, okay. And now you're going to find the one that says mini first-person controller. I have more packages because I've used Unity a lot, but we're going to find the correct one and then press import. Okay, we're going to want to make sure everything's selected and then press import again. I already have this downloaded, but I think there might be a download button before the import button if this is your first time accessing it from the Unity Asset Store. Alright, I can see it over here, so I can go ahead and X out the package manager. And I can click on the first-person controller folder. Now, I'm going to delete the main camera light, which I'm doing by just right-clicking on it and then pressing delete. And then I'm going to drag this one all the way up here. Alright, so now I've got my mini first-person controller, and if I look at the game view, it's a little low, so I want to fix that. And to do that, I'm just going to find my mini first-person controller, which I can also do by double-clicking on it. Okay. And to get a better view of things, when you're panning around, you can basically right-click on the trackpad or your mouse at the same time, and you can kind of get a little bit more of an adjustable scale. So now I'm going to click on the mini first-person controller, raise it up so it is above the ground. Alright, it seems like it's a little high, but it'll just fall on when I press play, so that's totally fine. Okay, so I'm gonna press File, Save, always a good idea to save. And now I'm going to press play to test everything and make sure it's still working. Okay. Okay, so I can see the little shadow of the controller, and I can move around. I'm just doing this by using WASD. I think you can also use the arrow keys, and then you use the mouse to look. And you can also jump by pressing the space bar. Okay, so I'm going to stop that. I'm okay where that is. I'll leave it there for now. Again, this is our terrain that we've built. If you're not comfortable doing this, create a plane. That's totally fine. This just adds some cool variance to the scene. Okay, so now that we've done that, we've tested it out. We are then going to add a skybox, because right now the sky is blue and boring and we want it to be super pretty because this is a great way to add intrigue to your world. So we're going to click on skybox asset in the tutorial I sent you, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to open in Unity. Okay, make sure that's selected. We're going to press import, download if you need to. And now, don't do anything, because this is a very large package. This has 10 skybox sets, and we don't need 10 for this scene, we only need 1. So to do that, we're going to scroll down to where you see these different sky descriptions, and we're going to start unchecking the ones we don't need. Make sure you leave all this stuff checked. This is all of the materials and things, so leave those alone. We're just going to uncheck the different skies. And you can get an idea of what they look like by just like doing a little check there. but I'm going to continue to uncheck these. I like this one, so I'm going to leave this one checked, but feel free to, pick a different one if you like. I just am a fan of the epic glorious pink. Okay, so now that we have only one of them selected and our materials selected, we're going to go ahead and press import. This one is a little bit larger, so it might take a second. Just be patient. And again, Unity Asset Store has a lot of assets. I usually search by free assets first. You will, as Maya stated, get a budget of $30 to buy assets. You can also check out sites like Sketchfab or even create your own, but you do not have to do that by any means. It's just if that's something you're interested in. And while we're waiting for that to download, we're going to go into what we're doing next, which is importing the skybox. I envy everyone watching for being able to just skip forward at this part if they need to. All right, beautiful. So we can X that out again. I'm going to save because I'm paranoid. And now, again, in your assets, you can see a folder with all sky free, and you can see a folder within that that says Epic Glorious Pink. So double click on that, and now we can see these different options. So to import that into our scene, we are going to go to Window up at the top, and then we're going to go to Rendering, and then Lighting. Then we're going to click the Environment tab, and now you can see our default skybox is in place. It's blue. That's why our sky is blue here, but we want it to be pretty in pink. So we're going to grab this one and drag it there. All right, there we go. Ooh, that's made our ground very pink. I'm not sure I'm a fan of that. So I'm going to go back to Materials, click on Ground, and I'm just going to make it a little darker. Because I have this one selected and the ground is already dragged onto our ground, I can alter it by just manually dragging it around. Alright, I like that much better. Okay, so now we've got our skybox. We're going to test things out, make sure everything's working by pressing play again. Okay, we can look around, the nice sky. It is epically and gloriously pink. Incredible. Okay, so I'm going to stop that because we know it's still working. And now we are going to make a second level. So to do that, we're going to, you guessed it, save again. And we're going to go to our assets and we're going to go to scenes. Now we have level 2. Before we go to level 2, we are going to do something that's going to save us a lot of time, and that is create some prefabs. Prefabs are game assets that are saved exactly how they are in the game. So if we go to our prefabs folder and we take ground and drag it in there, we now have our ground saved, and this is going to save everything we've done to it, the color, how it looks, where it exists in the scene, so you don't have to reposition anything. And you can do this with everything, characters, the ground, objects, and it can save you a lot of time and make it easier when you're building multiple scenes, which everyone in this class will be doing. So now we're going to go back to scenes, and we're going to click on level 2, always save, and here we are going to take our ground prefab and drag it into the scene. But I do want something to be different, so going to make sure that the camera is raised up. If you have the camera selected, you'll be able to see it in this mini window, which is super useful. There we go. All right, I like that. And I don't want the ground to be purple anymore. I want it to be blue. So I'm going to drag the blue onto the ground. If it will let me. I guess I have to do that here. Ooh, that is very blue. It might be a little too blue for me. So I'm just going to tone that down a little bit, make it nice and dark. And again, you know, I want an interesting skybox for this one, so I'm going to do the same thing where I go to Window, Rendering, Lighting, Environment, and drag in this nice skybox. If earlier in the tutorial, well, we can't go back in time now, but if you do this again, you can always download more skyboxes so that you can have different ones for different scenes, or keep them all the same. Whatever suits your narrative better. Now we're going to save again, and we are going to go back to the first level 1 scene. So I'm just going to click that. Beautiful. Okay, so now we've got level 1, and we've got level 2, but how do we get to level 2? If we press play, there's no way to get there. So, based on your interest as a class, I am going to create a door and a key, because the door is going to be locked, and you need the key to then unlock the door to go to level 2. So to do that, we're going to create a cube and a cylinder. So we're going to, in the hierarchy window, again, click the arrow, or right-click, create a cube. Beautiful, and we're going to rename it door. Right? Let's find our cube. We can double-click on it to find it, because especially in big scenes, things get lost. Alright. And I want it to be a little bit off from the player. Again, I like to go back and forth, checking, just to make sure I'm liking how everything is placed. Oops. You can also use the transform window to change how things look. I like that. But it is a little bit not door shaped. So let's fix that and make it door shaped. Okay. And this is the scale tool up here. I'm going to drag it through the floor, just so it's like flush with the floor, because I like the look of that. Oops. And then, do I like the thickness? I think it should be a little thinner. There we go. All right. Ooh, what did I do here? Let's fix that again. Oh, I made it way too thin. Drag this back out. Okay, I like that. That looks door-like. You can always like add a cylinder or like a circle on it to create a handle, or you can go into the Unity Asset Store or some other asset creation software, browser, whatever, and you can import the package, so you don't have to do that work yourself. But for now, we've got a cube. To make it seem slightly more like a door, we're going to take this door color and drag it on. So now it's brown. That is not brown. Again, because of lighting, stuff can look different in scenes, so you might have to adjust it after the fact. You can again do that by clicking on the material and just changing it there. So now we've got our door, and I also want a key, so we're going to create a cylinder. Go back to our scene view. We're going to move it. A little bit forward. There we go. A little bit this way. Then I'm going to rotate it this way. It's going to really end up looking like a coin, but that's okay for now. I'm then going to scale it in a little bit. And I think I want it a little further this way. All right, let's see. Okay, I like that. Again, it's, well, white, and I think I'd like to make it look at least a tiny bit like a key. So we're going to rename this to key. And we're going to drag the key material onto it and now we've got a key. All right, but they don't work though. They're just things floating, existing in space. So we're going to fix that. All right, how are we going to fix that? We are going to go back here and we're going to import some C# scripts into Unity. If you'd like to understand how these work a little bit better, feel free to stay after class. I can walk you through them. But for now, the main thing you need to understand is that whatever you name your C# script, it must match this public class here. Ooh, excuse me. Okay, so we're going to go back here. Our assets, we've got this scripts folder. We're going to fill it up. So create a C# script. We're going to name it door. We're going to create another C# script and name it player. We're going to wait for Unity to calm down. Again, sometimes you really do need to be patient with your computer, unless you have a very nice computer, because Unity is pretty hefty. All right, and then our last one is going to be called public vars. Okay, beautiful. Okay, and since it's freezing a lot, I'm getting worried that it's going to crash, so I'm just going to save everything just in case. All right, so now to open our C# scripts, we can just double click on them. Again, we learned last class how to basically link Unity to a code editor. I'm using Visual Studios. You may use whatever you like. I like Visual Studios a lot, if you would like to use it as well. Okay. Wait for that to load. Since I double clicked on door, it opens. I'm going to double click on player and double click on public vars. So now I have all of these. Go back to door, go to our lovely code on here, and we can just click copy, making it super easy. We're going to want to delete everything here and paste in the new code. Make sure these two match. Okay, and we're going to save that. Don't mind these errors here, it's because we haven't imported the rest of the code. Now we're going to go to player, copy, again delete everything, and paste in this code, save again, and go down to public vars, copy, delete this code, enter that one, and save one last time. So now, ignore that. That error down there is because we saved without having the public vars code in there. That should be resolved now. Okay, so now we've got all of our code, but it is not going to talk to things yet because we need to link it to our different game objects. So, by saving, we pushed it into Unity. Now we're going to drag the door script onto door. This is why naming stuff is important, keeps it super clear. Right, that did not work. We're going to do it one more time. Okay, and now you can see that our door is connected to the door script because in the door script we have an option to lock the door. See, locked. We can then select the locked option. And level to load, we named our different scenes level 1 and level 2 because here we can now tell the door to load the next level when we come into contact with it with the key since it's locked. If you unlock the door, you can just run into it without a key, and you just do that by unchecking. And you can do this with however many levels you want. If you have level 3, 4, 5, and 6, you can level to load by just typing in the corresponding number. Okay, and now we are going to drag the player code on to the first person controller. So got our first person controller, I'm going to drag the player code onto it, double check that it's there, I can see that it is. Now we're not done with the player, we have to do one more thing because the code is basically saying that when the player touches the key, the player collects the key. But how does the code know that the first person controller is the player? Well, it knows it because we're going to tag it as the player. So here, player is one of the pre-existing tags, so we can just select it. And then we are going to need to tag the key as well. So when we go to key and we try to tag it as key, you can see there is no option. So we're going to have to add a tag. To add a tag, we click this plus button here and type key. Perfect. And now if we go back to the key, we can tag it as key. And there's one more thing we need to do here, and that is to make the key a trigger, which means that it triggers something to happen. You only do this with the key, not the other two. So now that's a trigger. Do we need to do anything else? No. So let's save. Always be saving. You can also just, Command S. I just feel more confident that I've actually saved when I click on it. I've been burned by Unity before, if you cannot tell. Alright, so now we've got our scene. Alright. Oh. And you can see down in the very bottom corner when I run into the door, it says need key in the console log. So let's go get our key. Alright, as you can see it disappeared. Later we'll learn how to add like a sound effect or something to give your player a better indication that they have collected the key. But now, when we touch the door, we load into our second scene. So that's all we're doing for this tutorial. We are going to build off of this one, so please, please, please do your best to get to where we are. If you're having any issues, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to set up time with you to figure this out. And good luck saving that again. All right, bye everyone.